I know those of you watching this are on a deep healing journey and you know that business is a mirror. And so I'm going to give you a little bit behind the scenes look of the day to day of being a soulpreneur who scales to six figures and beyond. And we're going to have Lindsay coming in just a minute. I'm so excited to chat with her. I'm going to let her completely introduce herself and what she does because she's truly magic. We got connected on TikTok and it's just we've had these small worlds, we're from the same area, went to similar schools in the same city and all this stuff. So I just cannot wait for you guys to meet her and see her magic. So to get in here, but your metamorphosis and your soul business, it goes hand in hand with your success in your business. So we're gonna get started with Lindsay. What's up, girl? How's it going?
So
It's
good.
so good to see you.
I'm so excited.
Same.
Oh,
So for those that are going to be joining, I'm also just putting my camera up a little bit more. This is Lindsay's and I's second conversation. We have obviously had conversations behind the scenes, but second on live, and I'm so excited because last time, we got to kind of talk a lot about soul clients, but now we get to hear from Lindsay on like the transformation she's gone through in her soul business. So I cannot wait for you guys to learn more. And so Lindsay, I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself and talk about everything, like your
thank
magic and everything you do.
you.
Also, hi
Thank
to Vicky.
you. My name is Lindsay Schroeder, and I'm a spiritual mentor. I'm an intuitive business coach and a priestess. I know the words coach and leader and teacher and guru are like thrown around everywhere. And I know like one of your gifts is helping those of us who kind of have to force ourselves into the container of like coach or teacher or course creator really like express their magic. So the way that I really like to talk about the work that I do is actually through the lens of birth. So just picture you and your business as like you and your baby. And I am the birthing partner, the doula, the midwife. I flux between all of those. Like I can be fully focused on you. I can be fully focused on your baby, which might be your business or your book or your launch or your self love. I can be your midwife who's like perfectly flowing back and forth between the two. And like, I can be your birthing partner who's like rubbing your back and giving you counter pressure and reminding you of that breath work and all of the above and flowing between the two. I am truly here to support soulpreneurs. So, entrepreneurs who have graduated into their dharmic calling. You're not just selling services, you're not just selling products. You are giving your heart and soul through your business. You are not just an entrepreneur, but a soulpreneur. And I am here to be that support, to be that cheerleader, to be that intuitive seer for you, to utilize my intuitive gifts to synthesize, to help you digest, to help you implement so that you can go faster, further, farther, easier, and more gracefully, so that you can understand yourself with a depth and really enjoy the experience of this life and your business and your family and your friends and your kids and your everything that you're consciously creating.
Okay,
So that
I'm
casually after coach.
obsessed. That was so good. Okay, so good, and I felt all that, and I just want to speak to this quick, but then I can't wait to hear. And we've kind of talked about this, but I want you to be able to talk about your story, how you got into your business, and a lot of the transformations around that. But I love what you said about the intuitive gifts because there's just, and that's a lot of what I teach in my containers as well is tapping into your intuitive gifts is the magic superpower.
Yes.
And it helps you be more in line with your soul, and when you're more in line with your soul, you're more in line with universal energetics. And so I love to, we've talked about how you've worked with entrepreneurs who maybe were more in this not necessarily soulpreneurship, but then once people have this awakening around their soul, honestly takes it to the next level. And I feel like intuitive gifts are all the same. So I would love to hear more about your journey and how you got into your business and all of this, and then some of the major transformations around that too that led up to you not only starting your business but starting to find your soulmate clients and whatnot.
I've been offering spiritual services for over 10 years now. And it started like how so many of us start, where it was just for me at the beginning. Like, I originally got hired at a wellness facility because my history, my background was in professional makeup artistry. and they
Wow.
had a makeup space, they had an intuitive energy healing space, a
Mhm.
salon, a spa. And so I was hired to like coordinate and to manage their makeup. And I started doing social media and buying for them. And
Mhm.
eventually, through my own consumption of like, oh my God, I want to understand all of this intuitively for myself. Because I was really intuitive as a child and had to shut it down for lack of safety. Grew
Mhm.
up being forced to go to Catholic school,
Yep.
and I have been pansexual, polyamorous, and a witch for a very long time, and that did not fit well in Catholic school. And so my intuitive knowings and all of my clairs and like being able to, at one point at a family event, I said the name of a woman that one of my family members was cheating with just because I kept hearing it and kept feeling it, and it caused such a ruckus. And like as a child, I had to like push it down. Like my
That's so
mom caught
good.
me doing like witchy woo rituals when I was little, and she was like, "What is this? Please stop." And so like it took a long time to like come back to that for myself. And I just started consuming at like mass speed when I worked at this wellness facility. And eventually I started giving card readings and energy healings and crystal journeys, these just like little tiny bite-sized things when we didn't have an intuitive available, when all the healers were booked, when someone just came into the store. Then
Wow.
I started leading like group events, so doing moon
Wow.
circles and women's circles and like leading guided meditation. And I found that I was really good at guided meditation and guided visualization and like sound healing.
Wow.
And eventually down the road, I realized that like I am capable of vocal toning, which means that like I
Mm.
can create the sounds with my voice that actually like move your particles or your frequency. So I don't even need an instrument all the time to do it.
Yeah, wow.
Energy healing through sound. But I had no clue about that when I was doing it. And eventually I just started being asked by the company to do more and more and more. I started hiring and interviewing the healers, but I was still under this impression that it was just for me. Okay, I'm going to get a Reiki attunement, but just for me. I don't ever want to be a master. I don't ever want to like
Right.
teach anybody or initiate anybody. Okay, I'll do a crystal journey, but just because I love crystals. Oh, okay, I'll do a reading just because I love doing readings.
Right.
And eventually I was like writing prescriptions for people and had no idea that like what I was doing was already like what I'm doing now. Like I started coaching without understanding that I was coaching, and I ended
Mm-hmm.
up building like a whole program for someone after a massive like life-changing event, which is like one of my favorite areas where soulmate clients come to me is like, okay, I'm going through a divorce. Okay, I'm changing my perspective. Okay, I'm moving from corporate to entrepreneurship. Okay, my parent just died. Okay, I just had a baby. Okay, I had a miscarriage. Okay, I'm realizing that I don't want to have a child, even though I thought that I wanted to have a child forever. And I'm getting a lot of backlash from my family, like these big things in life. And I helped someone through it from start to finish
Wow.
and really let myself like do that whole prescription process of like this practice and let's talk about it in this way and let's talk this many times. And I was fully coaching without even realizing it. And she looked at me and
Amazing.
she was like, this is what you should be doing. And every moment that had happened before that where people had been like, oh, you're so good at XYZ, ABC, you should have your own business. Oh, you're so multi-talented and you'd be able to do that. And I never gave a shit about anything enough to like, why would I have my own business? Like take all that pressure, all that heavy, all do all that work for myself, risk it all for it. Like, no, I'll show up to a corporate job, give 20, 30, 40%. They'll think I'm giving
Right.
200%. They'll pay me great money. It'll be wonderful. And when she said it to me, like I was typing how to form an LLC and open a business bank account
Yeah.
before I even knew that my fingers were going.
Yeah.
And
You're
like the
you're so
moment
new.
she said it, it just like it started and I never stopped and it went so fast. It was literally
Wow.
like a snowball down the hill that turned into a massive avalanche so quickly. And like I quit my corporate job like with a few hours notice after something happened and was just like, no. And I did it while I was pregnant after fighting them for maternity leave. I was literally several months pregnant. I had already fought them to like build a company maternity leave policy. And then one thing happened and I was like, yeah, no, I think, yeah. And I checked in with my like primary partner at the time and my secondary partner at the time. Within 4 hours of this like thing happening, I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna like work for myself now. I've been doing it on the side. It's time. So while pregnant, I like launched my whole business full time and
Wow.
went full time with like minimal preparation. I was like, nope, this is just it.
Oh my God, that's so badass.
Yep.
I love your story. I feel like I relate in the jumping out of the corporate job. It's just this knowing.
Yeah.
And it's just it's almost the point of no return. It's like you get to this point where you just cannot resonate with it anymore, and your body, no matter the circumstances you're in, your universe, God, etc., is like, I'm gonna get you on the backside, so just jump. And so I'm
Yes.
obsessed with this, and I would love to hear. So if those moments when you felt as though you didn't want your own business or you're kind of shying away from it, would you say that those were actually beliefs that were hiding under money mindset, self-concept type deals? And I'm going to give you some context on why I'm asking this question, but when I started my business, the transformation I went through was pretty similar, where I had always felt this call, people kind of telling me similar things, getting those nudges, those universal
Mm-hmm.
nudges. And then kind of getting to a point where basically I went on this deep transformation around money mindset, self-concept, and then my energetic gifts turned online. So that's a whole energy upgrade.
Yeah.
But I'm so curious if you kind of relate to that. So it was initially what built the foundation of my intuitive coaching business, actually, was these foundations. So I'm so curious if you relate to some of those pieces and if you feel maybe these feelings were hiding under some of those beliefs.
Yeah. So for me, because I came from makeup and like I
Mm-hmm.
loved doing makeup, but I never wanted to like, oh, I'm going to commit myself fully to this and like have my own business. And then I managed a salon after the wellness facility, and I had been doing social media and buying, and like I was so good at so many things. And like as a
Yeah.
projector, for those of you who know human design, like I
Yes.
could see the overview of, like I could solve problems differently than people. I always hit the ground running. I was always super successful.
Yeah.
And it took minimal effort from me. Like when I left that wellness facility, I had like 5 or 6 different job titles. Somebody would get fired or leave, and I would just like absorb their job. And I was
So
like,
good.
as much as everyone said to me with such confidence, you should have your own business, you should do this for yourself, this was never something that like, oh yes, that makes so much sense. But the moment it was attached to my intuitive gifts, the moment it was attached to my dharma, the moment that someone connected not just what I'm good at, but what I'm gifted at, to, oh, this could be it, I was like, this could be it, like this is all I could do. And then it started to flash through my mind of all of these other people, like my boss at the time. I was like, oh, this is your business. This is your thing, where you're like, oh, if this is it, if this is all I ever do for right now, or from like, this makes me so happy. And I had never connected those two pieces. I always had the skill set. Okay, I would be good at this. I'd be able to
Yeah.
manage this. I'm multi passionate. I'm organized. I'm disciplined. I'm self motivated. I'm
Yeah.
resourceful. Blah, 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 blah. But that was so human. And I was like, yeah, 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 human. Make money, live, buy food, raise baby. Like, okay. But the moment it connected to the cosmic, to the etheric, to the like, that which is more, which is my whole business, which was so cool, like to like reverse and like see both of those pieces back and forth, which I'm sure you get all the time when you have that like click moment where somebody goes from like client avatar to like, oh, that's my soulmate
Yeah.
client, where I was like, oh, this is why nothing else ever clicked in this way, because it's the blend of the two. And so many of my soulmate clients are, got it, successful, making money, resourceful, disciplined, self-motivated, and yet there's something missing. And so now I get
Mm-hmm.
to spend the majority of my time activating, unleashing, supporting in ritual, holding ceremony for activating gifts. Like I get to show you how your own gifts and messages, and when I'm seeing something, how it's coming through. And then people get to use that as a roadmap and go, oh yeah, I did kind of feel that. Oh yeah, I did kind of see, or
Mm-hmm.
no, I heard what you're saying you saw. And it lights up their own pathway of their own gift. And from our work together, you take that with you, because it's not mine. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
giving you just my answer, my gift. I'm not just using my site to like answer that question and problem, which we will do. But then I'm going to show you how I saw that, how I felt that. But I'm only seeing it and feeling it because it happened in your energy. And
Mm-hmm.
that empowerment, that, oh, those are my gifts. Oh, that's my skill set. Oh, that's my auric field. Oh, that's my like battery power source authority, whatever that is. That expansion moment that happens for people in our work is that expansion moment that happened for me when they
Oh,
connected. And I'm like, if I can just be holding that vibration and recreating that for people for the rest of my life, like I will die so happy.
oh, so good. There's so many good points and pieces I want to like kind of almost dig into a little deeper.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed and I like love hearing you talk about your work. I don't know if you saw me. I was like nodding the whole time. I almost feel like I have this like
Yes.
yeah, like stank
Because of
face
my
on.
clairgustance.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, it's so good. And I totally feel everything that you're feeling. And so I would love to hear you talk about that visceral moment when you realize who your soulmate clients were.
Mm,
And I'm curious, a lot of times when I find people have that feeling, in the aftermath, it's like, oh yeah, that was the moment. A lot of people that I work with, when that comes up, they're terrified of it.
yeah.
I'm curious if that came up
Mhm.
for you. And I know specifically you do work with people who, make large amounts of money. And a lot of times our brain will tell us, it's really common. I've even had clients that make more money than me. And
Mhm.
it's really common for our human brain to be intimidated by that. And
Yeah.
so I'm curious if you had any fears, any parts of you that were trying to sway you differently. And then, of course, it sounds like you were able to sink into your intuition
Mhm.
and continue to follow it. But I'm curious what came up there.
Yeah. So one of the things that was really like specifically difficult that you're like tapping into is the fact that my ideal work setting, situation,
Mm-hmm.
relationship is very different from the majority of like luxury coaching
Mm-hmm.
offers. And so that was really difficult for me to work through.
Yeah.
Yes, a lot of the clients that I work with do make a whole lot more money than me because they want big companies, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not what I'm aiming for. Like my ideal client situation is like having 3 private clients at a time, and then I have my like membership that's all the time, and I have a mastermind every once in a while. But like my favorite thing is to work one on one and
Yeah.
get deeply in and be your personal priestess for this amount of time, to the point where like I am literally priestessing myself out of a job for sometimes 6 months, a year, 5 years, because we've put so many things in place
Mm-hmm.
and we've activated so much, and you have so much material to. I have clients who literally just, once they finish their program, go back to the beginning and start again without me, watching that same video recording, because there's so much in there. And at every level that you meet yourself, you meet more of that information. And so it has been a mind fuck, to say, a rough term, of like, yes, I can guide with this seer's perspective, even people who I've never had businesses like that. I start using language that I've never had access to, like my more corporate clients or my former like Division 1 athletes or former professional athletes. I'm using these like sports metaphors and I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's hilarious. I like say it and it lands, and then I'm like, okay, can you explain to me why we use that and that? And they repeat it back to me and I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, that is. And I know exactly where it's coming from. I can see it in their energy of like, okay, this is what you say now to help them connect to this thing. And I say it and it works. And it's just like, but
I
yes, it
love
does
that.
take a lot of work in the self, because whatever's happening inside here is what's happening outside here. And so to
Exactly.
be able to fully embody and hold that, like, I don't want that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want a $1 billion company. I don't want to run a team of
Mm-hmm.
100 or 500 people. That's not my dharmic calling.
Yeah.
Now, when you as the client come to me and you have that, and yet you're going, my favorite, you're crushing it, but you're not enjoying it. So many of my clients come to me in that space of like, you are crushing, you're making the money, you're doing the stuff, you show up for everybody, you're filling everyone's cup, you're a great leader, you're this, you're this, you're this, you're. Who's doing that for you?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
yes,
So good. I love all these points in here. And I think that last point is especially a good point, even for more, coaching soulpreneurs. So
yes.
typically solopreneurs or even just light, small team, maybe some contract work, stuff like that. And, it's the more that we fill our own cup. And this is something I'm so curious if you feel parts of this too. I have a few points I'm going to talk through really quick, and I have another question for you. But in general too, a lot of times when I notice people are stepping into their intuitive strategies and, getting in the DMs for the first time and starting to make conversations with people, it brings up a lot of stuff. And it's like we have to learn how to completely validate ourselves and be the ones that truly wholeheartedly believe in our work to continue to move forward.
Yes.
So I'm curious your thoughts on that. And then I do have a question for you in a minute too.
Yes. Like it takes this full self belief and full self commitment and full self expanse. And I will say this as a caveat. It's not that you have to be 100% perfect all the time. And I know you've mentioned
Exactly.
this, but before I show up, before I send that message, before I post that, before I send that email, before I reach out to that person, before I even energetically reach out to that person before I'm emailing, I have to get my shit right first. Because that's what matters more than even the like material. That's what matters more than even what is said in the DMs, what's said in that email. It's where I am vibrationally. So it takes you doing the work. Sometimes it's 30 seconds and sometimes it's a 50-minute thing for
Right.
me before I press send, before I upload, before I send that out, because I have to be in that fully expressed place where no matter what happens here, no matter if they never answer me in the DMs, that's okay. That just means that's not the right fit. But my energetic currency that I've put into that energetic piggy bank, it's still banked and it's coming back in its own ways. But without that belief inside the self, without that true knowing, not just a thought I'm thinking, but a belief that I'm holding, a thing that I am being, has to be in place before I take any of those steps. Otherwise, it's lesson.
100%. So well said. And that is something too I teach a lot of times is, okay, how can you have, before you start your day, use your morning to literally ground yourself in wholeness in yourself. And again, it's not about being perfect, and that's something I teach too, because sometimes there just is lessons. You'll be in a good energetic state and you still might get responses that are a certain way, or you could be the most successful, you could be a very successful soulpreneur and still have people ghost you in the DMs.
Yeah.
Still have
Like
people leave you
you
unread.
will.
You will literally will.
Like if you're doing it, it's gonna happen. And it's
really gonna happen.
can you experience that without it meaning that you don't get to do what you've already identified for yourself? And that's like the hardest thing is coming to this space of what's going on around me doesn't get to change what's going on inside me. Because what's going on inside me is what's going to create what's outside of me. And so, like, yeah, they might not match up. The moment that you're taking that aligned action step, the moment that you're moving that energy and spewing your magic out into the world might not be the moment where that comes right back to you. But can you hold that as a pillar of truth until the physical reality shows up for you? And can you continue to be taking those moves in that much alignment and excitement and trust, regardless of what's going on outside you? Because that's hard. That's difficult. That's a skill set we have to grow.
Right. Oh my gosh, so well said. And this relates really well to, so my community name is called Metamorphosis, which was something that was completely a download and, something that came to me, but I'm just obsessed with the way that it fits in with what I teach, because as much as I'm mostly an intuitive strategy nerd and wizard, and that's a lot of what I teach, I actually just hosted a class yesterday where I talked about how actually messaging is a portal for you more than it is for other people. And so I am just obsessed with the Metamorphosis community, and it's really understanding that everything that shows up in our reality as soulpreneurs is a mirror. Doesn't mean that we constantly have to be digging at ourselves to be perfect. No. But it's that invitation to look at it as something to move through and grow through. And it is kind of this art and dance of letting yourself feel your feelings. I look at this path as the path of feeling all the feelings you have ever thought were possible. It's like it really reaches those depths of your soul in so many different ways. So that's just something that I really hammer home in my communities too. So I love all these points you have, and I love hearing about your journey. I actually have a question too, specifically when it comes to money. So that's a lot of what I teach people and talk about on my page. But when it comes to, maybe there's times where you're growing your business, or you've had new income amounts. You're kind of working, and especially I feel like that first 5K to 10K month, and even 15 20K month or so, there's just so much expansion and
Yeah.
growth. So I'm so
Yeah.
curious, patterns you see when you see these fluctuations and changes in your business. I actually just wrote a post on LinkedIn today where every time before my income explodes, I go through something that absolutely rips me open.
Yeah.
And so I would love to hear if you relate to that and kind of your experience in that.
Yeah. Well, I had a unique experience with pricing and what you charge and your rates, because when I first started, I came out of the gate with my private coaching at $5,000 and $7,500 for my packages.
Let's
And
go.
everybody that I talked to was like, "Oh, that's crazy. Like that's insane. That's so much." But like coming from the financial technology world, understanding and having a background in like I've seen these corporate contracts, guys. Like I know what 1099 employees get paid. I know what like consultants get paid. Like I felt such a calling to this perspective and understanding that the way that we change the world is by getting healers, magic workers, women, womb workers, the divine feminine, getting us paid, like focusing on shifting the perspective of how much this is valued. And
Mm-hmm.
I focused so much on not what are you getting on the specific calls, but what is the result of this? And the result is that your life will change after 3 to 6 months of doing this work with me. And that was the thing that I really needed to hold on to. So the beginning was really smooth sailing with that, of like started at these great rates, was calling in those clients who were like, at this point of like, okay, I'm ready to skyrocket. I'm ready to skyrocket. Like 5 or 7,500. It's a big investment, but like the moment that they did that, like $1 million years the year after, multi-million dollar years the year after, like launching new companies, solving the massive issue that they had. Like I had one client who was like one of my favorite clients to talk about. She's my been there, done that client who like everything I suggest, I've done that. I've done that. I've tried that. I've this, I've that. And it was like one specific area, one specific focus of like, I'm missing this thing. And I was like, okay, we'll get that thing. Within like 6 months, not only did she get that thing, but it was like crazy how magical and how fast, like finding the person, getting married, launching a company together, being wildly successful, like everything she ever wanted. And like that was the last missing piece. And it's like the result, the like who you are being changes so much through this work. Yet when I
Mm-hmm.
went from 10K to 15K from my private coaching, that was like my limit. And then you start to see like, oh, it's not just about my relationship to the industry. Like I had just been staying underneath what felt really safe for me. And then when I went to like 15K,
Boom.
and then the first time someone had a perspective about that, a negative perspective about that, the whole like, oh, I got called a snake oil salesman. I got called a cult leader. I got called a charlatan. I got called, oh, I pull the wool over everybody's eyes. I'm selling nonsense. I got a lot of feedback about having divine on my website, like all of these like things. Then I started to hear it. And yeah, all of that was being said, maybe not the cult leader thing, but all of that like negativity was still there from other people at the different rates that like someone else might think like, oh wow, 5K for private like that's so much. They might have to deal with those things at that level. It was just the personal level. And I didn't understand that when it was happening until I looked back at it of like, oh no, I had just been sailing through. It's like, no, you hadn't hit that wall for yourself.
Mm,
Yeah.
so well said. And I love too that you talked about in general, like income amounts and especially the
Yeah.
rates that you charge, because I do think, this is deep generational
Yes.
stuff. And I actually just watched, I saw this TikTok video yesterday that brought a lot of emotion into me. It was actually a video talking about how, we talk about like witch trials, and that really is like
Yeah.
healers, which is a term for that, and talking about how it actually just was this movement that killed 9 million women over the world. And
And
so
wealthy
those,
women.
mm-hmm,
Wealthy women. They don't want to talk
mm-hmm,
about that a lot, but the women that were went after were the ones who had their own money, who had their
mm,
own homes, who had their own
mm,
businesses, who had their own magic and wisdom. And a lot of times that was the way that that problem was solved. Like, oh, call her a witch, we'll burn her at the stake. She can't be autonomous and she can't be influencing others.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks for bringing that up too,
Yeah.
because I totally knew part of that, but that totally makes sense because it is this attack on powerful women.
Yes.
And so I like love that you talk about what comes up when you do step into your power. And that is actually, I've dealt with some of those projections as well, mostly when it's come to, especially, you know, being online talking
Yes.
about money as a spiritual entrepreneur and healer. That was actually something, you know, this fall I went through a huge initiation around starting to get projections for the first time, you know, when I, as someone who does feel called to outwardly talk about money, starting to get those projections, people saying it's greedy, people saying it's all these things. So I'm love that you show too this like different threshold, and that was something I felt too, definitely with raising my individual prices as well. But especially it's like when you start to do something that is no longer normal or average, these projections come up and they will literally like they hit you in all different ways. So I love that you talked about this, and holy crap, like what a freaking internal journey that is for sure. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm just like loving our conversation. I know we could probably talk for hours, but I have a few questions to kind of like, I feel like there's so much more I want to pick up, but I'm just so curious if you were to give advice to someone who's dealing with those projections, or, you know, anyone that is maybe, you know, I'm especially right now talking to people who are kind of getting into these thresholds where their income is, you know, that 5 to 10K beyond. You know, I help people scale to 20K or mid 5-figure months essentially. But I'm curious if you were speaking to someone who's initially breaking that threshold that you just talked about, or your prices started to get, you know, something that's deemed a certain way. What would you tell them? What would you tell your past self? And just anything you have around that period of time, even if it's not necessarily advice.
Yeah. Money is an amplification of self and soul. And so when you look at yourself and you think about when you make more money, when you hold more money, when you invest more money, when you grow your money, when you have more flexible money, when you have overflow, where do you naturally want to utilize that? What do you naturally want to do with that? What are some of the things in the back of your head that you're like, when I get to this level, I will be donating, or I'll be, you know, this philanthropy, or I'll be doing this, or I'll be taking that. Like, I want you to really look at how money is going to amplify you, how money is going to amplify who and what you already are, and think about how that supports the collective. Because how we, especially as women, especially as soulpreneurs, as an individual who is heart-centered, soul-led, is truly committed to either sharing your gifts for the betterment of humanity or for the betterment of specific individuals, what you are going to do with more funds is going to make a big difference. We vote with our dollars. You make change through how you spend your money. And so just spending a little bit of time really thinking that out, or considering, like, if I had an extra XYZ dollar amount that I could only spend on and then put it in this specific area. Because a lot of us go, oh, I would put it towards my debt. I would put it towards my student loan. I would put it towards my business. I would invest in self. Okay, but let's just say this is extra money. You're at this new level. How you would spend that for your home, how you would spend that for your family, how you would spend that for your experiences. You tell me that that influx doesn't change the world for the better. Yeah, right. You're right. Like, it, of course it will. So like at this bigger level, you have more flexibility. Imagine when someone comes to you and needs help. Yeah, I got it. I can do that. Imagine being able to like give scholarships away for your work. Imagine being able to like see a natural disaster, or see a new endangered animal, or see a water issue, or bring Wi-Fi over here. Like, what each of us is called to do, and the impact, how it grows when we have more availability with our finances, because let's be really clear, guys, like our world functions on money as the transactional value calibrator. Like money is just a basis that we have here, and what you do with it, when we start to balance out with those individuals who have been taught how to make money, how to value money, that money is just a natural given, when that becomes homeostasis for us as healers, as leaders, as light workers, that's how we change the planet.
So well said. I'm just so obsessed. And so this actually reminds me of what I have written down next to me. And I'm going to bring it up in a second, but it truly is what we're doing, as much as, yes, be able to create this beautiful life for ourselves. What keeps us rooted in, I love that, again, you brought up some of these challenges, especially from the outside pressure. It's what's going to keep us rooted is our true mission and our more collective mission.
Yeah.
As much as, again, there's so many benefits that we do get being able to be in our fullest expression, make income that is way more supportive than all the limiting jobs. We kind of talked about, for instance, I worked in advertising in Chicago, did not make much money to live in a huge city, and also was having my soul crushed, because you know how that feels when you're not itching that part of your soul. And so the collective mission around money in general, and again, that's why I'm so bold about money on my page. I really speak to people who understand, and I will get people who don't understand. And so I literally wrote a week or two ago, I wrote my mission statement out so that I could see it. I have this statement, and my mission statement is a world where lightworkers are thriving and building wealth for their magic. And I just love that you brought this up, because these are the types of things that also help us to stay rooted in our businesses when we are going through the steep growth. It's almost this perfectly concocted plan from the universe, where the business is the mirror, we do the growth. And in the Metamorphosis formula, which is, formula that I have in my programs, it's kind of this 6-7 step formula. And I talk about how alchemy is actually also your wealth rocket fuel.
Yeah.
So I truly believe too, when we get to these next levels and we move through the alchemy, that's when these next waves of soulmate clients come, because now they can see us as we've moved through this stuff. But in general, yes, it's what we're doing is collective. And the more that we can also stay rooted and stay grounded with money, the more that we're going to be able to do the funds around that. So I just love how this tied up our conversation. I love all of these points, and I just absolutely love the work you do. And I think also so badass, I think you truly are someone who, in a lot of ways, really were here before this huge wave of online stuff. So I think this is amazing, and how you have truly just followed your intuition and really stayed tied in with your value. And notice, I think that's so badass how you kind of saw how people were paid in corporate contracts, and you said, well, I deserve that too. I think that just shows how innately tapped in you are. So thank you so much for being here today. Is there anything else you'd like to share, maybe about the work you do, ways people can get connected with you, anything like that?
One more thing to add to this, like why you not only deserve, but like it's your duty to get that bag. And like as a woman, it takes a lot of work for the majority of us. Like unless you had a foundational system that you grew up in that was constantly like teaching this to you, the behind the scenes money, like as a woman, most of us were not taught to like, yeah, you are not only worthy and deserving, but like you should be responsible, and you should take this on of like, I should, I have to, I must, I demand to make that bag. Priestesses used to be protected by the government. Priestesses used to be those of us who made the decisions, who the warriors came to, who the government officials came to, who, our town, our group came to make these choices. We were protected and taken care of. And in a world where that's not happening, where your government is not going to protect you, where your, community leader is not going to like, oh, we're going to put you up in this house, and we're going to take care of you in this space, and we're going to come to you for your intuition. The way that you do that for yourself is with money. The way that you are safer is with money. The way that you have flexibility is with money. The way that you can take care of your health, your mental health, your physical health, your energetic health, the way that you can expand more, the way that you can access more of those gifts that are yours, that are meant to come through in this world, on this timeline, on this planet, is with money. So it is your job, your duty, your responsibility to get that bag.
To get that freaking bag. Let's
Yes.
go. I
Yes.
love it so much. And oh my gosh, I just love our conversations. And thank you for being here today. And yeah, in general, too, just really echoing that last point, too, especially as I'm kind of speaking to people who are in that initial push through moment of having more stability. I think too, it's, you know, when you have money, you get to be more grounded in your work. You get to be, you know, and so it's this beautiful win-win when you have abundance in your life and you feel supported. You know, there's also parts of, you know, not having total control of the path and being able to get to a grounded point no matter what your bank account looks like. But at the same time, when you know you're supported, that's when you're going to provide your best work. So, guys, Lindsay's a badass. Thanks for being here today. And this was so fun. And for those that maybe joined a bit later, this will be up on my page. And hello, everybody that's watching right now. We're so glad you got to join us. There was a bunch of people who jumped in. So I'm so glad people got to hear a lot of what you moved through and just all the magic you have to share. So thanks for being here.
Thank
and
you
we'll
for
definitely
having
chat
me.
soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.